2 weeks in advance to the clerk's office, and then we get a list of names, and then we give those to the winning underwriter. And we've even, in some cases, said to the winning underwriter, you have to call these people and offer them bonds.
All right, okay, that's all
Yeah,
I wanted to
yeah.
know.
No, I like the idea of the direct sale
Right.
if it's kind of a picturesque project. A sewer plant's not quite there. A bubbling brook, maybe, a little walk or something. So,
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Then Alderman Eugene Wesley.
So these are the only options we have, or is there other options out there?
this is it. I mean, basically, you get free money, you get state loans, or you go out and borrow it somehow, whether it's a revenue bond or maybe part of a general obligation bond. But ultimately, it comes down to you get some free money, and whatever else you get, you borrow, and you have to pay it back. Yes.
What do you see most municipal towns going to?
Well, I think everybody first, on a project like this, everybody would first go to the EPA and say, "Can I get some of the state revolving fund money?" I mean, that's kind of the no-brainer. As long as the project is more than $500,000, it's worth it. So that's the first thing you do, and then after that, it's the usual way. Then is to do an alternate revenue bond. Those have really replaced your traditional water and sewer revenue bonds because you don't have to have a lot of accounts. You don't have to borrow some extra money to put in a debt service reserve account and just hold it there. The security is much better. You get a better interest rate. So most communities will use that. And then this past year, we've done Build America bonds for any issue. That's a new project money, probably about anything like $3 or $4 million and above.
Yeah,
Build
but you
America
said
bond.
those might come to end on a 2010, so we aren't that.
You just don't know. You just
Right.
don't know. But yeah, it's so far it's a good thing. But no, I think out of all of these, the normal financial plan outside of the using state or federal money would be the alternate revenue bonds.
Thank you.
I know there's a number of people here that have some level of involvement with the project, and is there any questions you have for our consultant here? Anyone? Okay, then with that, Mr. Wilson, do you have any final comments before we close out?
I'd just like to thank Kevin for taking time out of his evening to come talk to you guys tonight.
Thank you, Kevin. Okay, so that concludes our discussion on the wastewater treatment plant funding and review of alternatives. Next item is report and recommendation on Channel 6, the expanded contact. Mr. Murmas?
Recently, staff had been asked to look into the possibility of expanding our public access TV content. Currently, we broadcast city committee meetings, council meetings, ZBA plan commission meetings. When those aren't running, we typically have a running slideshow that highlights upcoming events, important dates, important information about the city. So what we did was we realized early on in the process that if we wanted to expand to some of the types of content that we've been hearing about, we can't do that in-house. So what staff did was we took a little field trip over to the village of Addison. They have one of the biggest public access TV studios in the area. They did offer to let us use their studio for our expanded content if we decided to do so, free of charge. However, we would need some staff members over on Addison's end to help us produce the show, probably 2 to 3 staff members over there. It would cost between $300 and $500 if we were to do anywhere from a half hour to an hour show. It's important to remember that there's a lot of pre-production work on Wooddale staff side that's going to take quite a bit of time to, get this, whatever show it is together, this expanded content together. So it will cost a minimal amount of money over at Addison, but there's a lot of planning involved in staff costs here in Wooddale. So really, I'll just open it up for any questions or answers. I don't really have much more to report.
I would say though, on a real important issue in community education, it would be worth it at least sometimes when there's something coming up that we really need community involvement in. So it is good to know that that is available to us in the future. Alderman Eugene Wesley.
Are you looking for a decision tonight on this, move forward, or are we looking to put this in the budget?
No, this is
See if
up to you. You get a couple of council members brought this to me to bring back information on what it would take to get something like this going. So we're not looking for any. We don't have a recommendation. If you want us to proceed, then we could formalize things with Addison and figure out a plan.
Do you have any, how many hours it would take to put a show together? From
Well,
staff
over
level perspective?
as far as Wooddale staff time, how many
Yes.
hours?
Yes.
To be honest with you, I don't know. Probably minimum of 5, minimum. For a half hour to an hour show, minimum 5.
And we would look to do this show once a month, or what are we looking at?
That's up to you.
I think that might be overkill once a
Well-
month, yeah.
Well, I just don't know. I mean, with those Addison's, you're looking at hiring Addison staff, 2 to 3 people from staff members. I mean, what are they committing to? I mean, what are we committing to on their staff if they got hired 2 or 3 people?
I think those people are already working there, right?
No.
They're just gonna charge us for Mr. Murmas?
Yeah, the 2 or 3 people in Addison, they're Addison employees. We kind of subcontract out with them
Yeah.
and pay them a special rate. So that we
yeah.
just can't go in there and use all their equipment. We don't have the knowledge to do that. So they're letting us subcontract their employees. That's where this $300 to $500 would come from, which is what it would cost to subcontract their employees for.
So we're paying their salary for putting it together.
Yeah, we're
Basically.
paying the Addison employees, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Douthwaite?
The cost doesn't really relate to how many times a month that this show would be aired. Once we do it, it's canned, it's on the tape, you stick it in the tape and you run it. So, whether it runs once a week or 4 times a week, the cost to us is there's no difference between that. It's really a function of how much preparation and how extensive you want to get with respect to putting the show together. For example, let's say we wanted to do a show on the new train station. I would imagine that rather than just Mr. Forrest standing behind a microphone as a talking head and talking about the train station, that we'd want to go out there and take some videos of the train station and, some stuff to jazz it up, if you will. And that's where the cost is involved. You're going to have somebody on staff who's going to write the script so that Mr. Forrest isn't just there behind the microphone, talking extemporaneously. So it really depends upon how jazzed up and how sophisticated you want to make the show. If you want, Chief Benowitz standing behind a microphone and just talking, it's pretty cheap. If you want to jazz it up and go back out and have our guys do films of police cars going back and forth and all that kind of stuff, that's when it starts to get not only time intensive and expense intensive, extensive and labor extensive. That's where the cost starts to pile up. If you want it to really be a sharp professional program, it's going to cost you some money, and it's certainly going to cost us some staff time. If you just want a talking head in front of the camera, that's pretty nominal.
Okay. Any other questions? Alderman Shockey?
It was a number of years ago, I brought this up the first time, and I think we're getting into something here that is more than what at least I expected. what I was looking for was a talking head, a 3 to 5 minute commercial, you might say, done here. And if it's going to be Chief Benowitz, it's not going to be cheap. I want to make that clear. But it would be just talking, for instance, the chief talking about the scam artists that sometimes come through town and what not to do when you have somebody approach you, especially senior citizens approach you and want to do your driveway or look at your roof and that type of thing. For John Forrest, it might be a little reminder about what permits are needed. If you're going to put up a fence, how much of a fence, shed, so forth, that kind of thing, just public announcement kind of thing. Again, short 3 to 5 minute type of thing that they could throw in between the slides that are shown. It's just to make it a little more homey and to make it really professional. I think it would take away from what we would want to accomplish.
I think if the council wants to go in the direction that Alderman Shockey's going in, you're probably looking at a whole lot less money than more. Then you don't need, the background shots of the police cars going back and forth. It's just the chief in front of a mic, in front of a camera, giving you a quick 3 to 5 public service announcement. And then you're talking about relatively little staff time and relatively little cost because it really doesn't, it's not a program, you don't have to program it and produce it. It's just a guy behind a mic in front of a camera.
You know, it would be, instead of having just a slide saying you don't put leaves on the street from your parkway or from your lawn, it could be Mr. Kramer's face saying, we don't allow that leaves to be put on the street, so please take the leaves and rake them back, or just short types of things, just as information to people, because many of them don't know these little things.
And that's a lot less work than we had anticipated when you and Alderman Wesley and I had talked about this at the outset. I thought you were into some enhanced production than what you're talking about now.
We don't want you to look better than we do.
I wouldn't advise Mr. Kramer to be in front of the camera at all. I would have Mr. Mermis take that.
Dude, got thrown under the bus.
But no, Alderman Shockey, if that's the way you're going, you're talking about a lot less work than what Jeff had anticipated when he started to put this together and research it.
Which reminds me of when we had the parades, and one year we videotaped it and got it on TV, and we can put some of those on the channel. So in theory, if we had the whole someone talking concept, can we just film in here on a camera and pop it in?
Yeah, we can certainly do that. Yeah, that wouldn't be a problem. I mean, it wouldn't look as
Right.
jazzed up or professional as it would look over, in Addison's studio with like a formal interview table and all that good stuff. But I mean, we could do that. Yeah, we have the capability to do that. Still have to write a script and do all that fun stuff, though.
Sure. Which could go back to the department head to come up with the verbiage. Alderman Ray Wesley?
The purpose of this was to bring more information to the residents about Public Works and the Police Department and the Finance Department. And this is where it should be done, right here, right in this chamber. No cost to the citizens because the staff is already here. Of course, staff time to make up the scripts and everything. And we're supposed to use that channel to tell the citizens what's going on in the community, and that's where I think it should be. Jeff, I do have a question. If we do it in-house here, before you said 4 to 5 hours for a script to do it in Addison, how much time do you think it would take, staff time, to do a script like in here? I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but,
A couple hours.
okay, so it's not that bad.
No.
Okay. But also in return, when it comes to the Prairie Fest, for advertising for the Prairie Fest, maybe we should look into Addison to do a script there, because now when gonna have some videos and stuff like that. So. Okay, I yield to Alderman Wesley.
So, and I'm not going to yield to him. So if we were looking at maybe a June timeframe to do our first one of these documentaries, I'm going to call it a documentary. And would that be fair to aim for June so it could be playing June, July, August, and who knows, maybe we'd do it quarterly in conjunction with when the newsletter comes out. So just
Staff
about anything
can,
that goes
we
there.
can throw around a couple of ideas, get a baseline going of what we want to do, and then, we'll bring it back to you. And it won't take that long to get something going. I mean, we could probably do it way before June.
Okay.
But if you wanted to wait until June, we could do that.
No, like springtime, maybe Jennifer, April, it'll kick off the second quarter type of thing, and then quarterly do it.
So basically, you're looking for like a live person kind of giving blurbs from the newsletter, really, almost
Right.
like a live newsletter.
Right.
type. Not an interview back and forth type scenario.
No.
Just okay, yeah,
Not
that's
yet,
fine.
at least. Okay.
We can do that.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Eugene Wesley?
No, I was just going to make the comment that we don't go any further with Addison if we choose to do it in-house. Tell them not to pursue Addison.
Yeah, I don't think we need to pursue Addison at this time. Any other comments, questions before we wrap up this item? Okay, so you'll bring it back before April and we'll discuss it before it goes on? Okay? Okay, thank you, Mr. Murris, on that item. Next item, items to be considered at future meetings. A, business license ordinance amendment. Item B, budget 2010, 2011. When are we actually looking at starting the budget? Mr. Douthwaite? What month are we looking at here?
I'm sorry, I was talking to Jeff.
No, that's okay.
Repeat the question.
Item B is budget 2010 and 11. And when are we going to have our first committee meeting on it?
The plan is to have two budget meetings, the second Thursday in March, the fourth Thursday in March, which would both be committee meetings. And then if necessary, another meeting in early April. I would hope, last year you wrapped up the budget in two sessions. I don't expect that there'll be any need to do anything more than that. So our plans right now are to have a meeting on the second Thursday and the fourth meeting in second and fourth Thursdays in March, and then actually pass the budget sometime in mid-April. That's the plan right now.
And can you remind me, is the deadline April 30th or 15th? Or?
The deadline technically is April 30th, but state law allows you to go an extra 3 months if you need to. We've passed the levy in December. That's step one. If you're not ready to wrap it up by the end of April, you still have an extra 3 months. You sort of operate as what we call a continuing resolution. But our goal is to get it done by March and pass the appropriation ordinance in April.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Item C is the 5-year CIP, February 11. Item D, water rate increase from DuPage Water Commission. And are there any other items for future meeting? I make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
I will call to order the Planning, Zoning, and Building Committee of January 28th, 2010. Will the minute taker please reflect same members present? I will make a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting dated January 14th, 2010. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. First item to discuss this evening, report and recommendation on pay request number 5, another partial to FBG Corporation in the amount of $176,275.38. I think Mr. Forrest did a really nice job of breaking down the total amount approved for construction, the contract amount, credits, change orders, current retainage, but John, I will give you the microphone and let you elaborate before we take a vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to again announce publicly, be sure everybody who's watching on TV knows the train station is open. Hopefully, all the members of the council have had an opportunity to go through it, hopefully while the coffee service has been open in the morning. It's a really nice feature for the station. The ribbon cutting is planned for February 9th at 11:45 a.m. Hopefully you've all gotten your invitations for that. We're looking forward to it. The contractor is almost complete going through the punch lists that were prepared for him by the architect, the design engineer, and staff. We have a couple issues we're still working on. As I said in the memo, we do expect we will be keeping back $5,000 from the final pay request, just in order to verify once the weather breaks that all the landscaping has been installed per the approved plan and that the irrigation system as installed is in proper working order. So I did talk to the architect today. I expect I'll be meeting with him sometime next week. He expects to have the final payout request with all of the credits and any additional little odds and ends of field changes that were made so that we can consolidate all the final figures for the station. And it's very possible that the next committee meeting will be coming forward with the final pay request from the contractor. We have a few items that we're still working on there. I also expect at the next committee meeting to present a couple of options for the interior benches for the station. It's been something we've been wrestling with, and I expect to have 3 different options to choose from. One would be installing benches in the train station that are just stock benches that we can order out of a catalog. Another option would be to have benches custom built into the walls of the station. And the third option is having custom-built benches that'll be installed in the station as well. So we have 3 options. Because the benches are expensive, I would like to bring it to council and let everybody see the different options, and you can choose. By that time, we'll also know what kind of funds we're dealing with that we'll have left over out of this total amount. So that said, they need their money. That's it.
Alderman Coles?
John, were the benches audited?
Benches have not, I'm sorry.
Haven't been audited yet?
The benches have not been ordered. They were not part of the construction
Oh, all right, okay, that's all I wanted to know.
contract with FEG.
That's all I wanted to know.
Alderman Shockey?
It was mentioned previously about the possibility of benches being sponsored, having somebody's name on it, a business or restaurant name or something. Has that been considered?
We were thinking about that for the exterior benches. We could certainly carry that through with the interior ones if that's something you wanted to go with.
You might want to find out from the chamber if there's any members of the Chamber of Commerce if they want to do that, once we get the prices.
Okay, if there's no other questions, I will make the motion to approve payment of pay request number 5, which is once again a partial to FBG Corporation in the amount of $176,275.38. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. Items to be considered at future meetings, the Land Vision Unified Development Ordinance, which is now finally gotten through the Zoning Board of Appeals / Plan Commission. So we are looking to begin discussion on this in February of 2010. Is there anything anybody else would like to see on future agendas? Alderman Eugene
Can I
Wesley.
just ask a question? Land Vision, are we going to get that ahead of time to look at?
Yes. We expect the first, actually probably the first committee meeting, we can maybe just sort of quickly run through and highlight some of the major changes. I wouldn't expect we'd have a really in-depth review of it at the first meeting, but we'll just sort of, everybody can get their feet wet on it. And
But Are you going to put the changes that the planning and zoning board made their recommendation for changes in front of it or something? 'Cause
Yeah.
I was part of those meetings. I mean, I was here for those meetings. I like.
Yeah, Mr. Clicker is working on that now.
Okay.
All right, if nothing else, I will make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries.
I would attain a 5-minute recess for the minute taker at this time before we call public.
I'm gonna flick your ear.
Call a Public Works Committee order. Make a minute taker note that same people are present. Need a motion to approve the minutes, January 14, 2010. That is my motion.
Second.
Question, changes, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Item number 4, report and recommendation, new street light. I believe this was, well, is it, you're looking for a policy? I believe there's one out there.
We've not, I've heard that, we've not been able to find it. The only thing that's been conveyed to us verbally was that anytime 50% or more of the residents in a street asked for a street light, that we would give that to them. We've never seen that in writing so far. This really started off about a year ago. There was a request to install a light on Welter Drive. We put together some cost estimates. We took it to the council. The council said, well, we don't know that that's justified or not. Maybe we ought to have a policy on that. About a month ago, we got a petition from residents on Essex Court asking for a street light. We made some initial cost estimates. At that time, we thought it was about $5,000. Since then, we've actually gotten a quote that indicates that it's going to be between $7,000 and $7,500. And the staff got together and said, you know, maybe we ought to get some sort of a policy in writing to determine when these things are justified. So Mr. Kramer got on the internet and did some research with respect for some other cities. And we thought as a starting point that we'd recommend a policy as follows. If a street light's desired, all property owners on the same street and within 250 feet of the proposed light would be surveyed, and they'd have to give us a petition with a minimum of 80% of the residents. The problem I found in my history with other cities is that a lot of times some of the residents want a street light, others which light might shine in their windows might not be fired up about the idea. So we thought maybe 80% would be a good threshold to go from there. After receiving the petition, the police department and public works department would review it and determine that it's necessary for the public health and safety. The public works department would then solicit quotes, and we take it back to the city council for final determination. So that's the outline of the policy that we've put together as a staff that we take to you all and use from now on in terms of determining whether or not any street light is warranted. I think what I did not put in the memo, and Mr. Kramer can amplify on this, is that number one, the requested street light on Essex Court is in a PUD, and all of the lights in that particular subdivision are privately owned. This would be the only light that the city would own. Secondly, as you know, most of the lights in the city are either on aluminum poles or on concrete poles, except for the northern part of the city in Ward 4, where they're on wooden poles and they're owned by ComEd. And in that case, we wouldn't own it. We wouldn't be able to install a light. We'd have to ask ComEd to put one on an existing pole, and those are a couple little wrinkles. So what you have tonight is you've got a current request from the residents on Essex Court. We got together and said, let's sort of codify this policy and see how we want to handle these in the future. So the proposed policy is in front of you, and if you want to enact a policy along those lines, that's fine. If you just want to deal with them on a case-by-case basis, that's fine too. You've got one request on Welter from one resident, and you've got a request from a number of residents